A week before the wedding, my fiancée, Sophia Summers, threw a bachelorette party. Walter Vance, a scholarship student sponsored by the Summers family, publicly confessed his love for her. Moved to tears, Sophia engaged him in a deep, lingering kiss. Her best friend teased her. "Aren't you afraid Sincere Sterling will find out and cancel the wedding?" "What's there to be afraid of? It's just a business marriage. If he can't even handle this, we'll find someone else." Walter, too, looked proud. "Big S and I are in love. Sincere Sterling is just a nobody on a marriage certificate. Besides, they haven't even signed the papers yet. He's nothing right now." I let out a cold snort, closed the door to the private room, and sent the video to my father. "It's just a business marriage. The Summers family's offering is soiled, so let's switch to a new bride. The wedding will proceed as planned. If Sophia Summers loves a charity case, then let her be poor for the rest of her life." Chapter 1. The sounds of mockery and insults from the private room were cut off by the heavy door. I returned to the room I had booked with my best friend Ethan Rhodes and messaged my executive assistant with a grim face. "Notify the project department to suspend all upcoming collaborations with the Summers Corporation. First thing tomorrow, contact the banks and cancel all corporate fund transfers to the Summers Corporation. Leak the news that Sterling Corporation will no longer have any business dealings with the Summers Corporation. Without the life-saving capital my family was providing, the Summers Corporation would go bankrupt in less than 3 months. But their bankruptcy wasn't enough. I was also going to ensure that when the Summers family took out loans to cover the capital shortfall, they would have to sign personal liability guarantees. Once the Summers Corporation officially went bankrupt, everything they owned would be seized. Didn't Sophia Summers love a scholarship student? Only a love between equals can last. My father quickly sent over a list of eligible heiresses from our circle. The invitations had already been sent out. Canceling the wedding at this point would not only be a loss of face for the Sterling family, but also a blow to our reputation. The Sterlings were not some minor family. Our invited business partners, suppliers, and friends had all cleared their schedules. Swapping the bride on the wedding day was better than canceling the event entirely. "Are you really going to marry Sophia Summers? Being a cuckold doesn't look good on you." Ethan handed me his phone. A silent video was playing of Walter Vance and Sophia Summers embracing and kissing in front of a floor-to-ceiling window, with fireworks bursting in the background. On Walter's wrist was a luxury watch I had discarded. It wasn't flashy, but its second-hand value was enough to land him in jail for a few years. Where did this video come from? I took his phone and scrolled through, discovering it was Walter's social media account. I couldn't help but sneer. I was just worrying that the video I had taken wasn't enough. Ever since the wedding date was set, I had hired different private investigators to tail Sophia, but they never captured any conclusive evidence that would allow me to break the engagement. With what Walter had posted, it was more than enough to slap the entire Summers family in the face. This kid is a minor social media influencer. He's got over 200,000 followers from posting his love diary. This is some top-tier drama. The wedding is in a week, and Miss Summers is basically tearing the Sterling family's reputation to shreds and stomping on it. Ethan couldn't hold back his laughter. I felt a lump in my throat and silently screen-recorded and took screenshots. The marriage contract between the Sterling and Summers families was forced upon us by the Summers, who were shamelessly cashing in on an old favor. My grandfather looked down on their family. After they showed up at our door with Sophia, demanding we honor the engagement and forcing my hand, he had been dragging his feet on setting a wedding date. 6 months ago, a poor decision by the Summers family led to a critical cash flow problem within 3 months. After being turned down by everyone else, they shamelessly came to us again, pushing for the wedding to take place. My impression of Sophia Summers could be summed up in 3 words: shallow, arrogant, and foolish. She was right. It was just a business marriage. Why should I tolerate a fool as my wife? After saving all the evidence of Sophia's affair with Walter, I returned the phone to my friend and said calmly, "The wedding date remains the same, but the bride won't be Sophia Summers." Ethan froze. "You have a new bride in mind?" "Not yet. You'll see who it is on the day of the wedding." I glanced at my watch and added nonchalantly, "I'll be stopping by Road Sterling Capital tomorrow morning. You should go back and figure out how to ensnare all of the Summers family's assets." Now that's a job I'd love to do, Ethan said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Chapter 2. I was in a hurry to get home and choose a new marriage partner, but, as luck would have it, I ran into Sophia right outside. She was holding Walter Vance's hand as they came out of their private room. Seeing me, she only paused for a second, making no move to let go of Walter's hand. In fact, she deliberately led him toward me, her expression haughty. "Sincere Sterling, are you always this annoying? Stop using your fiancé status to stalk me. I don't like you. It's just a business marriage, so don't make things awkward for yourself." Ethan, who had probably never encountered a fool of Sophia's caliber, stood with his mouth agape. I was furious. I reached out, grabbed her chin, and forced her to look up at me. "Then let's break the engagement, and make sure your grandfather gets on his knees to do it." "This engagement was something your grandfather begged for on his knees, and this wedding is something your family begged ours to hold." I shoved her chin away and took the wet wipe that the drama king Ethan handed me, meticulously cleaning my hand. Sophia, likely never having been treated with such contempt, felt her eyes well up with tears. Walter snapped out of his stupor, pulled her behind him, and threw a punch at me. I tilted my head, dodging the punch, and sent him flying with a kick. I shot a cold glare at the dumbfounded Sophia, then walked over and planted my foot on Walter's back. A pained grunt escaped Walter's lips as he cursed through gritted teeth. "Sincere Sterling, this is assault. I'm going to sue you. Sue me." I pressed down harder with my foot, sneering in disdain. "I'd be out after a cup of tea. You, on the other hand, if I really wanted to make an issue of this, I could have you locked up right now. What do you think would happen to your academic record if I made one phone call?" Walter shut his mouth, his face filled with resentment. Sophia, finally coming to her senses, glared at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Sincere Sterling, have you lost your mind? I had too much to drink, and he was just helping me. For the sake of our family's long-standing engagement, you don't have to compensate Walty. Just apologize to him." I pressed down even harder, grinding my heel into his back, and asked with a cold laugh, "You want me to apologize? What's wrong with asking you to apologize?" "You're the one who hurt him," Sophia shrieked, suddenly lunging at me like a madwoman. I quickly pulled my foot back and dodged. Drunk, she tripped over Walter on the floor and fell heavily on top of him. I stepped back to Ethan's side, calmly took out my phone, and dialed 911. They wanted to call the police? I'd do it for them. Sophia helped Walter up, her voice dripping with concern. "Walty, are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Mr. Sterling was right to hit me." "I was out of line," Walter said, playing the victim as he clutched Sophia's wrist tightly. Ethan blinked, then blinked again, his mouth open wide enough to swallow an egg. "Playing the victim knows no gender," I muttered, fighting back my disgust as I waited for the police. A few minutes later, the responding officers came upstairs. I pointed at the watch on Walter's wrist and said calmly, "My watch was stolen. It's on his wrist right now." Walter's pupils contracted, and his face went pale. Sophia looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, staring at me in disbelief. "I'm the one who took the watch to let Walty play with it, Sincere Sterling. What are you trying to pull? Who are you to me, that you can just take my things and give them away as gifts? An engagement isn't legally binding, nor is it protected by law." My aversion to foolishness was kicking in. I turned to the police. "The stolen item is of significant value. Please handle this according to procedure." Chapter 3. The matter of the stolen watch ended with Sophia paying for the damages and apologizing. The cheap booze she'd chugged had mostly worn off. Realizing the trouble she'd caused, she immediately went to Reginald Summers to confess her mistake. The old man then began frantically calling my grandfather and my father. My grandfather's phone automatically switched to Do Not Disturb mode after a certain hour. My father simply ignored the calls. After receiving the video I sent, my parents quickly used their connections to find several suitable candidates for marriage. The old man handed me a tablet, gesturing for me to look. "Even though it's a marriage of convenience, you should at least find someone you find agreeable." I took the tablet and said casually, "I'm going to the Summers house tomorrow to break the engagement. Thankfully, Sophia is foolish enough that we can get rid of them before the wedding. Grandpa didn't need to get involved." Years ago, Sophia's grandmother had merely helped my grandmother, whose water had just broken, get to the hospital out of kindness. For that, the Summers family received the Sterling family's support and even forced an engagement. The benefits they had reaped since demanding we honor the contract were more than enough to repay that debt of gratitude. All right, I'll tell your grandfather tomorrow, the old man said, his face filled with relief. Favors had to be honored, but the Sterling family's dignity could not be sacrificed. After reviewing the profiles of all the young ladies, I flipped back to Victoria Ashworth's page, surprised. Why does Victoria Ashworth need a strategic marriage? Victoria had already successfully taken over all of the Ashworth family's businesses. Logically, she shouldn't need a marriage of convenience. After graduating from college, she didn't join the family company but started her own business, which was now valued at more than the Ashworth family's total assets. There was a saying in our circle, "Don't be afraid of the second-generation rich who waste their lives away. Be afraid of the ones who want to prove themselves." Victoria had not only proven herself, but had also defeated 2 of her own brothers and 3 cousins to become the heir in power. The Ashworth family originally wanted to get rid of the father and keep the child, but they were worried the ousted family members would cause trouble, so they're considering a strategic marriage. The old man took a sip of tea and smiled. Word is, it was Victoria's own request. I looked down, my fingertip tracing Victoria's face on the screen. A smile crept onto my lips. It's her then. I'll contact her myself tomorrow. As heirs, what we cared about were our respective family interests. Feelings could be cultivated after marriage, and if not, it didn't matter. You couldn't have it all in a strategic marriage. The next morning, I told my grandfather about breaking the engagement. After a moment of contemplation, he packed a small bag and headed straight for the airport with his personal assistant. I had the driver prepare the car and went to the Summers house alone. Sophia's face was grim. She looked at me as if I were her mortal enemy, wishing she could tear me to pieces. Jonathan Summers and his wife also looked at me as if I were a child, squinting their eyes in scrutiny. I didn't recognize the other relatives. Reginald Summers put on the airs of an elder, lecturing me in a parental tone as soon as I arrived. Sincere, I heard from Soph that you two had a little disagreement last night. You're about to get married. If there's a problem, you should just talk it out. Jonathan also assumed the role of a father-in-law, defending Sophia. Sincere, Soph is a few years younger than you. She just likes to have fun. Nothing happened with Walter. Walter is a scholarship student our family has sponsored for years. He's always seen Soph as an older sister. With her grandfather and father backing her up, Sophia instantly puffed up her chest. You don't need to explain to him. The worst that can happen is we find another family to marry into. He's not even my husband yet, and he's already trying to control who my friends are. It's not like he's the only one for me. As she vented, a smile that was impossible to suppress spread across my face. She was truly an utter fool. It wasn't a disagreement. Your precious granddaughter cheated on me. I'm here today to break the engagement, not to listen to your excuses. Your Summers family has 6 days to raise funds and save yourselves. My wedding date remains unchanged. I'm just changing the bride. I took out my phone and projected the various intimate videos of Walter and Sophia onto the large LCD TV in the Summers living room. Reginald's face turned black on the spot. The color drained completely from Sophia's face. Jonathan and his wife looked mortified, while the other relatives watched Sophia with undisguised glee. I didn't care if they were upset. All the contracts the Summers family signed with us were contingent on this marriage. Ms. Summers can continue to play around in the future, but I won't be joining her. Chapter 4. The shock was too much for Reginald Summers. He clutched his chest, gasping for air, and collapsed. The living room erupted into chaos. I stood up and took my leave. Once in the car, I contacted Victoria Ashworth and arranged a place to meet. Ethan called, his voice dripping with schadenfreude. The kid Sophia Summers fancies just posted another update. If you don't break off this engagement soon, you're going to be the biggest joke in our circle. It's done. Get the funds ready and release the news to the Summers family. I leaned back against the seat, watching the Summers family garden retreat outside the window with cold eyes. The Summers' old estate is quite nice. Haven't you always wanted a classic garden estate? This is the perfect opportunity. Give the bank a heads up to pull the loans from the Summers Corporation in a timely manner. Ethan chuckled and ended the call. The Summers Corporation didn't have enough capital to pull out of their new project. Dragging it out would only sink them deeper and bring down the entire company. The Sterling family, bound by an old favor, had put up hundreds of millions in hard cash, and still Sophia acted as if I were lucky to have her. I was done indulging her. When I arrived at the cafe, Victoria was already there, sitting in a booth with a latte. On the screen of her custom laptop was a stock trend analysis for Ashworth Holdings. I glanced at it briefly before looking away and sitting down across from her. Am I late? Not at all. I was just scouting a nearby location for a new store, Victoria said with a slight, playful smile. This isn't the first time we've met. No need to be so formal. You know my situation. If you're okay with it, I can have my lawyer come over, and we can go to the Sterling headquarters to discuss the terms of the agreement. No problem. Let's go now. I was taken aback by her directness. But then I remembered, she wasn't just the Ashworth heiress. She was a self-made founder. It was inappropriate to define her by her gender. Victoria was clear-headed and rational, and the terms she proposed were much as I had expected. After 2 hours of discussion, the final version of the agreement was printed out. We each notified our families of the meeting time and place. Just then the executive secretary knocked and entered, her expression troubled. Before I could speak, Sophia Summers burst in, pointing at me and screaming, "Sincere Sterling, who do you think you are, calling off the engagement just like that? I'm warning you. If you dare switch brides at the wedding, I'll make sure the whole world knows that the Sterling family can't be trusted." Victoria raised an eyebrow, crossed her arms, and leaned back to watch the show. Her meaning was clear. If I couldn't handle my ex, there was no need to sign the marriage contract. Chapter 5. Where's security? Are they letting just any riff-raff in here? My face darkened, my brows furrowing in displeasure. Sophia Summers, if you leave now, I can still show you some courtesy for your grandfather's sake. Sophia suddenly whipped out her phone and pointed the camera at me. Everyone knows I'm about to get married. How am I supposed to face people after you suddenly break off the engagement? Instinctively, I grabbed her wrist, twisted her arm behind her back, and slammed her down onto the small conference table in the very important person room. Sophia let out a sharp cry and started screaming again. "Sincere Sterling, let me go or I'll call the police and report you for assault." I took her phone, making sure the camera didn't capture me, and quickly ended the live stream. An amused smile played on Victoria's lips, and her eyes were filled with teasing. Honestly, I had never been so embarrassed in my life. My bodyguards arrived before the company security. "Restrain her." Sophia's eyes were wide with fury as she struggled violently. "How dare you treat me like this, Sincere Sterling? Don't even think about marrying me now. Don't worry, I won't marry you. I have an aversion to foolishness." I found Jonathan Summers' number and called him, deliberately putting it on speakerphone. "Mr. Summers, your daughter is causing a scene at Sterling headquarters. I've suffered significant emotional distress and am considering buying a trending topic on social media to calm my nerves." "I'm so sorry, I'll be right there to get her." Only a few hours had passed, but Jonathan's tone was now utterly deferential. It seemed he had already received notice that Sterling Corporation was canceling all collaborations. Sophia looked as if she had been struck by lightning, a flicker of fear finally entering her eyes as she looked at me. I raised my eyelids slightly, a sarcastic smirk on my lips. "This engagement was begged for by your grandfather on his knees. I told you I wanted your family to end it on their knees. Coming to your house in person was more than enough courtesy. But you have such a high opinion of yourself, thinking you're some goddess that everyone adores." I sat back down next to Victoria and waved a hand, signaling the bodyguards to take Sophia to the adjacent reception room. The Summers family was now on shaky ground. If they wanted to shut me up, they would have to make a painful sacrifice. With the very important person room quiet again, Victoria had a playful smile on her face. "Young Mr. Sterling's taste is—" "The engagement was forced on us by the Summers family. It was originally intended for my father's generation, but neither family had a daughter at the time. I wish the ground would swallow me whole. The Summers family is indeed not up to par. It's clear young Mr. Sterling has good judgment. I hope we'll have a pleasant partnership. Let's notify our families. The betrothal gifts and dowry need to be discussed by them. What we decide on our own doesn't count." Victoria laughed cheerfully. "Sincere Sterling, have you never had a girlfriend before? My family is quite strict, and romance isn't a necessity." My face felt like it was burning again. After Victoria and I booked a private restaurant for our families to meet, Jonathan Summers rushed over. As a gesture of apology, he brought a land transfer agreement. That plot of land was one of the Summers family's last trump cards. I accepted it without hesitation. After seeing the Summers father and daughter off, it was nearly dinner time, so Victoria and I decided to go to the private restaurant first and wait for our families. Our parents were acquaintances, though not close friends. Theodore Ashworth was alive wire-wise, progressive, and not partial to male heirs. Victoria's rise to power was the result of his unwavering support against all opposition. He added one clause to our marriage agreement: any future children, regardless of gender, would receive 5% shares from both families. Neither set of parents had any objections and signed readily. After dinner, as we were leaving, Victoria glanced at her watch. "Did you bring your ID? Since we have time this afternoon and we're already out, let's go get our marriage license." Chapter 6. After getting our marriage license, Victoria and I returned to the Sterling headquarters to discuss the wedding details. A union between our two families was a major event. Victoria was not Sophia Summers. I would give her the respect she deserved and double the grandeur. Here is the new wedding plan. The venue is set at the Sterling family's countryside estate. Take a look and see if there are any issues. It's too late for a custom-made wedding gown, but I have connections with a designer and can directly purchase his masterpiece, the Dream Queen, the only one of its kind in the world. I pushed the proposal I had prepared overnight toward her, feeling a strange sense of anticipation. The wedding with Sophia was planned for a 6-star hotel. It was a high-end affair, to be sure, but the estate was different. Our family only used it for the most important banquets. Victoria chuckled and picked up the wedding plan, flipping it open. "The location is excellent and the design for the ceremony is very creative. I love the wedding gown, too." She pushed the planner back to me, clearly in a good mood. "I believe we will have a very memorable wedding." "Of course, and we will be the best partners in business and in life." I couldn't help but smile back. That evening, after having dinner together and dropping her home, my father called. "Reginald Summers is in a coma." The entire Summers family came to our door demanding compensation. "I had the bodyguards throw them out. They might try to find you." "Got it. You and Mom should get some sleep." I hung up and called Ethan to ask about the progress of trapping all the Summers real estate assets. "They're waiting for the old man to make a decision. If he doesn't wake up, they'll have no choice but to accept the terms." Ethan's voice was sly over the phone. "Everyone in our circle knows Sophia cheated on you. Don't you dare go soft on them for the old man's sake." I grunted in agreement, finalized the details of the trap for the Summers family, and hung up. Then I scrolled through my social media feed. Sophia's friends truly couldn't stand to see her happy, especially her so-called best friends. She really was an utter fool. After learning that the video of her and Walter's passionate kiss was posted on social media, she actually liked it and commented that the camera angle wasn't good enough. Closing the app, I sent a message to Victoria. "My dear wife, we need to move up the official announcement of our family's union." Victoria replied instantly, "The PR department is on standby. I'll notify them to issue the press release now." I couldn't help but smile. I took a picture of our marriage certificate's cover and inside page and sent it to my executive assistant. "Notify the PR department to coordinate with the Ashworth team and issue a joint press release about the marriage alliance." The news of the Sterling and Ashworth families' union, complete with a photo of the marriage certificate, sent shockwaves through the business world. Overnight, the Summers family lost more than half of their business partners. The remaining few would surely cancel their contracts as well after seeing the news tomorrow. Invitations for the joint reception, hosted by the Sterling and Ashworth families before the wedding, would also be sent out tomorrow. Back when Reginald Summers forced the engagement, numerous business leaders were invited to the engagement party. Now, the marriage partner was the Ashworth family. Anyone with half a brain knew the Summers family was finished. And so was Sophia Summers. 3 days before the wedding, the gown I had bought for Victoria finally arrived by air. I immediately arranged a time for us to go for a fitting. Victoria was beautiful. It was a majestic, dignified kind of beauty, strong without being fragile. In the wedding dress, she was so breathtaking I couldn't look away. The staff helping her with the train gasped in awe. My wife, so beautiful. My throat felt a little tight as I gently took her outstretched hand. Although we were legally married, we weren't living together yet. "Sincere Sterling, your face is so red." Victoria laughed cheerfully. "But I like it." I could hear my own heart beating wildly out of rhythm. The gown needed some minor alterations. While Victoria was changing, Sophia burst into the very important person room, her eyes red as she cried and screamed at me. Sincere Sterling, on what grounds did you get a license with her? On what grounds did you change the bride? I was just playing a game with someone else, and you were so cruel as to make my grandfather sick and have me locked up for 3 days. You made my cousins insult me. Chapter 7. On the grounds that I don't like being cheated on, and on the grounds that you're a fool. I frowned and impatiently ordered my bodyguards, throw her out, and from now on she's not allowed within 3 feet of me. Victoria's female bodyguard quickly stepped forward, blocking Sophia from getting any closer to me. My own bodyguards entered swiftly and dragged Sophia out. Victoria emerged from the dressing room, a smile on her lips. The Summers family can't raise any capital now, and the banks are about to pull their loans. Several of their projects have been terminated. They'll be initiating bankruptcy proceedings within a month. Speaking of which, I should thank Sophia Summers. Acquiring several of the Summers' core assets will boost Ashworth Holdings' profits by 50% this year. We should indeed thank her, I said, unable to suppress a smile. When the Summers family made their poor business decision, I had merely asked Ethan to monitor the situation out of respect for my grandfather, without taking any hostile action. But since Sophia was so eager to disgrace the Sterling family, why should I continue to indulge them? The Sterlings could build the Summers family up, and they could just as easily tear them down. From what Victoria said, I suspected her hand was in the disastrous decision the Summers family had made 6 months ago. I liked her even more for it. 2 days before the wedding, the Sterling and Ashworth families' Kyo hosted a reception. Victoria and I appeared in custom-designed matching formal wear, confirming the rumors that we were already married, and our families had indeed formed an alliance. Most of the guests at the reception were also invited to our wedding. Ethan, that gossip hound, made his rounds and found me standing alone. I discovered something very interesting, he chirped. About that night Sophia had her bachelorette party. Do you know why Walter confessed to her? That was something I didn't know. Ethan paused for dramatic effect, raising his champagne glass with a smug grin. I'll tell you after the wedding. Fine, don't tell me. Unlike him, I had no interest in gossip. After a bit more small talk, a commotion broke out near the entrance of the lounge. The voice sounded familiar. I exchanged a look with Ethan and we walked over quickly to handle it. It was, of course, Sophia Summers. Without an invitation, she couldn't get into the lounge and was screaming at the staff like a shrew. I'm Sincere Sterling's ex-fiancée. Why can't I go in? Sophia Summers, I interrupted in a low voice. My wife and I did not invite you. Sophia suddenly snapped, pointing her finger at my nose and yelling, Grandpa might never wake up, and it's all your fault, Sincere Sterling. You're a murderer, she yelled so loudly that Victoria and some of the other guests gathered, watching the spectacle from a distance. Seeing she had an audience, she grew even more hysterical. If you hadn't come to our house to break the engagement, Grandpa never would have collapsed. I only got close to Walter because you forced me to. In the 5 years we were engaged, you never once contacted me or took me to any events. You had no respect for me. Sincere Sterling, stop pretending to be a good person. I ground my back teeth, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. Arguing was useless. Evidence was king. I took out my phone, unlocked it, and randomly selected a call recording, playing it on speaker. The Zhao family's grandson is having his 1-month celebration tonight. I need you to come with me. Get ready, I'll have a driver pick you up. What's the point of going to a baby party? It's just a bunch of social climbers. I, Sophia Summers, don't attend such events. You can handle it yourself. Sophia stared, her eyes wide with shock. I stopped the recording and let out a series of cold laughs. Ms. Summers, our engagement was forced upon my family by your grandfather. I may not have liked you, but I never disrespected you. I have plenty more recordings like this. Would you like to hear them? Business requires integrity. That was why, no matter how much I disliked Sophia, I didn't object when my grandfather told me to get engaged to her. In 5 years of engagement, I believed I had done nothing to wrong her. I wasn't some desperate simp. Her family had begged for this engagement. Who did she think she was, that I should revolve my world around her? My father walked over, my mother on his arm, and stated his position firmly. From this day forward, my Sterling family's hotels will no longer serve any member of the Summers family. Chapter 8. My father's declaration meant a complete and final break between the Sterling and Summers families. The few remaining partners the Summers family had would quickly find ways to distance themselves. With 13 banks pulling their loans, Sterling Corporation ceasing all cooperation, and partners withdrawing their investments, the Summers bankruptcy would accelerate rapidly. On the wedding day, the Sterling estate was filled with guests. Leaders from half of the city's business community were invited to witness the ceremony between me and Victoria Ashworth. The Summers family was not invited. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly. Afterward, Victoria and I changed into new outfits to greet the guests. Victoria, in a custom-made cheongsam, possessed a different kind of beauty. After a long afternoon of compliments about what a perfect couple we were, and drinking a fair amount of wine, we were both a bit dizzy by the time we returned to our new room. But our spirits were incredibly high, as were our bodies. The night was young and precious. Waking up in the morning and seeing Victoria still asleep beside me, I once again felt immense gratitude that she was my wife. That dog, Ethan, unable to stand seeing me happy, sent me a video first thing in the morning. It showed Victoria and Walter sitting in a corner booth at a cafe looking like they were plotting something. The person filming was too far away to hear their conversation. I quietly got out of bed and went to the study to call Ethan. "You did this on purpose, didn't you, you punk?" "Not at all. I just wanted to tell you that your wife has had her eyes on you for a long time. Why don't you just ask her directly? Spouses should be honest with each other." Ethan chuckled mischievously. "You might be in for a surprise." I hung up and played the video again, noticing the digital clock projected on the cafe wall. The date was exactly 8 months ago, the day after Reginald Summers had asked at my grandfather's birthday banquet when Sophia and I would be getting married. Remembering Ethan's hint, I couldn't help but laugh. "What are you looking at that's so amusing?" Victoria walked in wearing her pajamas, her face still showing the drowsiness of someone who had just woken up languid, with a hint of seductive charm.
"I'm watching how my dear wife schemed to steal me away."
"I'm very fortunate to have caught your eye." I stood up, wrapped an arm around her shoulder, and led her to the sofa, where I played the video Ethan had sent. "Want to see a clearer version? One with dialogue?" Victoria nestled into my arms, unlocked her own phone, found the video she had taken of her meeting with Walter, and pressed play. On the screen, she leaned back in her chair, her posture relaxed and confident. "The money Serena Young gave you isn't even enough for her to buy a new handbag. Why not take my offer? Once you graduate, you'll have the capital to establish yourself, whether you stay in this city or move elsewhere." Walter was nervous and awkward. It took him a long time to stammer out, "What do you want me to do?" "It's simple. Secretly date Sophia Summers. Serena was telling you to seduce her anyway. I'll let you know what to do next. You and Sophia have been flirting for a while now. She's just been hesitant to go too far because of her engagement." Victoria smiled and pushed a bank card across the table. "The Summers family will be bankrupt soon. You decide what you want, a future or love." Walter chose a future. I turned my head to meet Victoria's gaze, raising an eyebrow in amusement. "When did you first set your sights on me?" There were 5 other potential heirs she had pushed out of the running. Choosing me was indeed the best way to secure her position. She also wouldn't have to worry about protecting her children in the future. For a sole heiress from a wealthy family, having a child without a husband was often the best choice. But Victoria had 2 older brothers and 3 cousins. For her, that path would have been dangerous. Ashworth Holdings was valued at around $40 billion, while her personal assets were over $50 billion and still growing. The moment I secured my position as the Ashworth heiress, technically the marriage contract between your 2 families was based on my grandmother's good deed, not that rotten old man's. My grandmother was the original wife he kicked out of the house. She collapsed from hunger on the street and was found by my grandfather. Victoria smiled with candid honesty. "I decided to steal you away not just to get revenge for my grandmother, but also because the Sterling family has a strict code of conduct. You don't cheat. Even if your feelings change, you'd separate amicably. Rather than let my brothers use my marriage as a pawn, I decided to choose for myself. A good choice." I leaned in and hugged her, laughing with genuine delight. Chapter 9. Our 10-day honeymoon ended, and Reginald Summers had yet to regain consciousness. The Summers Corporation was in utter chaos. Many of their employees began sending out resumes preparing to jump ship. The more capable ones had already found new positions. Both Sterling Corporation and Ashworth Holdings hired quite a few of them. Just after I finished a meeting about acquiring the Summers Corporation, the Summers family dragged Sophia to my office to apologize. The security guards on the first floor couldn't stop them, so the executive secretary had no choice but to place them in a reception room. "Young Mr. Sterling, Soph was just momentarily foolish. Can you, for the sake of our family's old friendship, Help the Summers family one last time. Jonathan Summers' attitude was completely subservient. His back bent even lower than the last time he had come to pick up his troublemaking daughter. Sophia kept her head down, her cheeks red and swollen. Before I could speak, Jonathan slapped her across the face and barked, "Apologize to young Mr. Sterling. Now is this how we raised you? To be involved with another man while you're engaged?" I frowned in annoyance. "Mr. Summers, I don't know what you're talking about. I am already married. Please stop bringing up the engagement. I love my wife very much. If you upset her, I will make you even more upset." Seeing that the pity ploy wasn't working, Jonathan started trying to leverage the friendship between our grandfathers. Our two families go way back. We don't need an investment from Sterling Corporation. Just help us by guaranteeing a loan so the banks will suspend the recall. If it weren't for Reginald Summers shamelessly forcing us to honor the engagement, your company wouldn't have grown so quickly, I interrupted him, my patience wearing thin. My entire family was sick of this engagement with the Summers family. We were also sick of their leech-like nature. A union between equals is a strategic alliance. A union with a significant gap is charity. If it weren't for that engagement, why would my family provide them with targeted financial aid like a government program? I gave a sarcastic laugh and called for my executive assistant. "Escort them out. From now on, no one from the Summers family is to be allowed upstairs unless it's for official business. If they try to force their way in, call the police." The Summers family was kicked out of the reception room. The way they all looked at Sophia was as if she were their parents' murderer, which, in a way, she was. The Summers family's life of luxury was about to end. To ruin someone's fortune is like killing their parents. The day I went to break the engagement, Sophia's cousins had smirks of schadenfreude on their faces. Now that the family was about to fall, they sent me videos of them berating and abusing Sophia, hoping to appease me. "Young Mr. Sterling, since we've already dealt with Sophia, could you please help our family one more time?" After watching the videos, I immediately called the police. The Summers family was already having a hard time. When the police showed up at their door, Reginald, who had just barely woken up, fainted again. Jonathan, overwhelmed, went begging to Ethan once more. Ethan had his eye on the Summers' old estate. When he asked Jonathan to use it as collateral, he signed without a moment's hesitation. "I have a feeling we can start preparing for Reginald Summers' funeral," Ethan said, laughing gleefully. "He schemed and scraped his way into the upper class with your family's help, only to have a family full of children and grandchildren who do nothing but sabotage him. I told him to keep up the good work." After ending the call, I received a video from the private investigator tailing Walter. Walter and Sophia's supposed best friend, Serena Young, were secretly living together. He had taken $5 million from my wife, but instead of planning for his future, he was still fixated on marrying into wealth. It's hard to go from a life of luxury to one of austerity. To maintain his rich kid lifestyle, Walter had sold all the luxury goods Sophia had given him. I anonymously sent the video to Sophia and gave her a suggestion: get a marriage license with Walter, and you can move out of the Summers house. Then go demand compensation from your best friend. Otherwise, you can expose her as a homewrecker. She may be foolish, but she understood her current predicament. The entire Summers family wanted her dead, and Walter was trying to dump her. She had no other choice. Chapter 10. Sophia's love-addled brain finally had a moment of clarity. Instead of getting a marriage license with Walter, she chose to call the police. To avoid a criminal record, Walter returned the full amount of money he had taken from her. Knowing Sophia now had a small fortune, I anonymously notified her cousins. Less than an hour later, the private investigator sent me a video of the Summers siblings and cousins fighting and tearing at each other. That's more like it. If they were going to be poor, they were all going to be poor together. No one gets to escape. A week later, the Summers Corporation initiated bankruptcy proceedings. Ethan, holding the investment contract, joined other partners in applying to the court to freeze all of the Summers family's real estate and bank accounts. Reginald Summers woke up again. When he heard that even the family estate had been mortgaged, he immediately had a critical relapse. This time he never opened his eyes again. After the funeral, Sophia's cousin hastily found a second-generation rich kid and got married. Sophia's reputation was in tatters, and with her ex-best friend spreading rumors about her affair everywhere, even minor rich kids wouldn't look at her. The entire Summers clan moved out of the old estate. The brothers fought viciously, blaming and attacking each other. The money Sophia got back from Walter ultimately ended up in the hands of her parents, Jonathan and his wife. But since both of them were involved in the company's decision-making at a high level, the money was frozen as soon as it hit their accounts. Their stupidity was astounding. The family of three had to rely on the spare change in Sophia's mobile payment wallet to squeeze into a shared rental apartment. Unable to bear such a life, Sophia used the evidence of Walter's cheating to threaten him into getting money from Serena to support her family. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, remarked Ethan, the gossip hound who loved nothing more than a good show after reading the PI's latest report. He clicked his tongue in amazement. How could a man as shrewd as Reginald Summers have descendants who are each more foolish than the last? His second wife was a mistress who climbed her way up. His original wife went through decades of hardship with him, but the moment he got rich with our family's help, he kicked her out. That's why my grandfather looked down on him and the entire Summers family. I handed Ethan a bottle of water and opened my laptop to go over the list of Summers' assets with him. The management of the Summers Corporation had always tried to emulate ours, but there was one thing their family never learned: to keep business and personal finances separate. Their family expenses were sometimes paid from company accounts, sometimes from personal ones. When the bankruptcy proceedings began, every single one of their accounts was frozen. Now, I believe what my parents always said: it's better to marry an ordinary person with good character and ambition than someone from a wealthy family full of illegitimate children. It affects the intelligence of the next generation. Ethan sighed. I shot him a look and got back to work. Sophia, who had never known hardship, couldn't stand living in a shared apartment with her parents for long. Soon, she was back at the Sterling headquarters trying to ambush me. As a married man, I naturally kept my distance. To avoid any misunderstandings with my wife, I contacted Walter and used his academic record as leverage, forcing him to take Sophia away. Walter didn't dare refuse. Life finally returned to normal, and my relationship with my wife deepened quickly. Victoria was brilliant, with a high emotional intelligence. We were a match made in heaven. 6 months later, the Summers Corporation's debts were settled. The entire Summers clan was reduced to poverty, forced to scramble for a living. Given the company's size, the proceedings should have taken much longer, but with Rhodes Sterling Capital as the largest creditor, the auditing, legal, and liquidation teams were all in place in the shortest possible time. Sophia and Walter were still tangled up together. I guess you could call it true love. I didn't pay much attention to news about Sophia. The next time I saw her was when my wife and I were out of town playing golf with a business partner. She was working as a caddy at the golf course. She looked numb and dejected. A group of local rich kids gathered around her, teasing her with crude remarks. She saw us too, and her face instantly turned deathly pale. She probably never imagined she would run into us even after moving so far away. My wife couldn't stand to watch. She told a bodyguard to go help, and I didn't stop her. Before the bodyguard could reach her, Walter, also dressed as a caddy, appeared. He rushed into the group of rich kids and slapped her across the face. "You tramp, I leave you alone for 1 minute and you can't help but seduce people. I'll teach you to be a slut." The rich kids were startled by Walter's outburst and ganged up to beat him. After they were done, they scattered, not giving our bodyguard a chance to intervene. I wrapped an arm around my wife's waist and we turned to leave, pretending we hadn't seen a thing. A caddy's salary is around $10,000 a month. They were still too well off, but judging by Walter's attitude toward her, her life was probably not easy. They were never meant to live a life of wealth and privilege anyway, my wife said, leaning against me with a wry smile. When my grandmother helped your grandfather take your grandmother to the hospital, that dead old man beat her and accused her of being a shameless flirt. Later, when he saw how generous your grandfather was, he forced my grandmother to ask him for a reward. Your grandfather didn't know his true character. He invited both of them to dinner, and that dead old man used the excuse of being drunk to arrange the engagement. After hearing her story, I raised an eyebrow. If the old Summers patriarch kicked your grandmother out, why didn't your grandfather deal with him later? Knowing Theodore Ashworth's temper, it didn't make sense that he would let the scumbag who abused his wife live a rich life for decades. He ran off with his mistress. Back then, finding someone was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Victoria shrugged with a small laugh. When he came back with his family during the economic reforms, he latched onto your family and developed his business in secret. I only discovered that the dead old man was the bastard who bullied my grandmother when your two families announced the engagement. That's when I started fighting for the position of heir. I refused to be a pawn in someone else's game, and I'm glad I fought. You're right, my dear wife. I'm glad you fought too. I smiled and leaned down to kiss her.